Hello, folks and patrons. Welcome. And thank you very much for coming. This is going to be a very, very special time for us. I have one of the greatest storytellers I've ever heard. Here's Dr. Lucky Garvin with the story of Rock.
A proper story, they say, has three features: a good beginning, a good ending, and the narrowest space in between. I shall do my best. This is the story of my Doberman, Rock, R-O-C-K. My wife Sabrina and I do wildlife rehabilitation in Virginia. We also rescue Dobermans. At any given time over the last 20 years, you might find 5 to 7 Dobermans in our home. 3-year-old Rock came to us in 2005, timid, 20 pounds underweight, with severe hip atrophy, since even as a puppy, he was never allowed to run or play. He had no idea what to do with a dog bone or a toy. His most identifying feature was his lopsided right ear. As you know, once trimmed, a Doberman's ears stand at attention. Poor Rock's was like this. We never found out why. But with good diet, love, and exercise, he fleshed out into a broad-chested animal, now afraid of no man. And then 3 character traits began to emerge. The first was his protectiveness. One night while I was at work, Sabrina heard a noise in the house that she should not have heard. She swung off the bed to go investigate and found herself blocked by Rock. This was to be his hunt. He led her through the house. He inspected every door, every window, every shadow. And when they got to the end of the house, he turned, looked at her, wagged his tail as if to say, "We're clear, Mommy." The second character trait was devotion. By observation, Rock learned Sabrina's bedtime. And at the appointed hour, he would move to Sabrina's chair and sit and stare at her. Then he would lead her and the pack into the bedroom. Third character trait: no matter what time I came home from work, be it early morning or late at night, I climbed the stairs, enter the room, and there he would be, lying on my chair, watching the door, waiting for me. Then I would hear click, 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 his toenails on the hardwood floor. He simply walked up to me. There was no jumping up or crazy barking or tail wagging. He simply stood beside me, his muzzle pressed against my thigh. "Glad you're home." I would sit and unwind. He napped at my feet. Later, we'd go off to bed. Click, 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 his toenails on the hardwood floor. Then Rock began to stumble. Then he began to fall. There was no pain. It's just his back legs didn't work so well. And then they stopped working altogether. We had taken him to the vets. They had said spinal disease, no cure. We waited a few weeks for a miracle that never came. We put Rock to sleep. You know what's normal? You love, you lose, you hurt. You know what's not normal? You expect a high flood of pain, and instead you get a tsunami. For 1 year, I was buffeted by a depression I could not shake. Months after the loss of our boy, I was still falling, and try as I would, I could find no solace. And then, in one day, the grief was gone. On that day, about noon, my son and his wife came to visit and brought with them their little lapdog, Tommy. I played with Tommy a bit, and then sometime later, I went upstairs. After a bit, Tommy came to join me. Strange to say, he didn't get all wild and crazy. He just rested his muzzle against my leg, like my Rock used to do. I loved on him a bit, and he fell asleep at my feet. But here's the thing. In order for Tommy to climb the 14 carpeted stairs to my office, he had to pull himself up using his 2 front legs. You see, Tommy had a birth defect. His back legs don't work so well. He feels no pain. He just stumbles and falls a lot. Sometime later, I remembered an outside job that I had forgotten to do, and as I stepped outside, I was met with a very curious sight, a groundhog sleeping in the sun under a tree. Because of a scar on his back, I knew he was one that we had rehabilitated and released, but that did nothing to guarantee he would accept my presence. Like all wild beings, once you release them, they become unpredictable and occasionally dangerous. I made a decision to sit down next to him. Don't ask me why, but I did. And that simple deed took its place in that transfiguring afternoon. He didn't run away, which he should have. He crawled up on my lap, which he shouldn't have. He didn't bite me, which he should have. I scratched his back, which I shouldn't have. And he went to sleep, curled up on my lap. And for the next 20 minutes, peace finally began to elbow grief out of the way. And like an unstoppered bathtub, the grief just flowed out of me. Then a car pulled up in the driveway. He ran off. I never saw him again. Before I leave this part of the story, allow me to add these two things. When I first saw the groundhog, he was not sleeping on the ground. He lay on a broad, flat rock. Also, this groundhog came to us as an adult. The family had captured him as a baby, kept him until adulthood as a pet, then changed their mind and brought him to us. While they had him, they had given him a name. They had named him Lucky, which is my name. So it was on that day that a little lame dog and a friendly groundhog led me out of my year-long depression. But, strange to say, this story has a postscript. Early every morning, either Sabrina or I take our four-wheeler and run the eager pack up and down our long driveway. One morning, as Sabrina approached the four-wheeler to begin the run, she noted to her surprise that all 7 dobies were playing in the front yard, not clustered around her as usual. She described their play as jubilant. She had never seen anything like the energy she saw in the front yard that day. Wild barking, mock fighting. Rock would chase one, then they would chase Rock. She watched this for about 45 minutes. Suddenly, the dogs broke off their play and gathered around Sabrina, and down the drive they went. Sabrina did a quick head count. One of the dogs was missing. Who was missing? Rock was missing. Suddenly, Sabrina snapped, fully awake. 2 years ago. 2 years ago. We had put Rock to sleep. But in the front yard had been a big dobie with a lopsided ear. Having been to heaven, it seems God fixed all of Rock's ailments, but left his ear untouched. So there could be no mistaking who it was who came back to play that morning.